See if this works instead. For those watching in chat, let us know what the stream quality is like in the next few minutes, please. Yeah, I've been trying to fix some issues to no avail, and I'm genuinely not sure what's happened, so I may just have to stream via my Xbox, which means that we're going to have to sacrifice the fancy graphics, I'm afraid. But it might mean that the stream is just a better quality, but it's just a bit less fancy, I'm afraid. Yeah. I think until I can get my technology, I can buy a technology brain from Apple or something, work out how to work a PC, I think it's just the way we're going to do it for now. That doesn't mean that we can't have fun tonight. At Australia, as you can see, beautiful Albert Park circuit, been on the calendar for many, many years, and missed the last couple of races here due to COVID and resurfacing the track, which hopefully will be added into the next game. Yeah, good evening to you all. Tuesday night, brand new week, brand new set of streams. Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday nights. Tonight is the no assist tier 1 division in IIRL. Every single driver here running no assist, the hardest form of sim racing there is today. Chives is our featured driver, and unfortunately crashed out early in the session. We'll tell you a bit more about Chives as featured driver a bit later on. $18 drivers here this evening, both full-time and reserves. We've got James White reserving. I think for the first time this season in no assist, and we've also got a brand new driver, SLR Block, in the Mclaren. He is, as you could probably guess, a friend of SLR Connor's, and them two not separated by too much. Good evening, T-Patch. Hope you're well, mate. Good evening also to Hyper Wiggles and Fairly in chat. Wiggles goes fastest, and it's been so long since I've done some laps on Australia. I think for many people it's probably the same. Track that some people absolutely love, some people absolutely can't stand this track. I'm a bit in between. I love pretty much all the track apart from the fast chicane in the end of second sector. Very tricky, and I just can't get it right. So I tend not to drive Australia because of that reason. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see who really loves this track for the end of the evening. Dr. Edward desperately hoping that this Aston Martin ahead doesn't hold him up. And don't think any harm done there. Edward is up on his time by 0.4 of a second. Q1, 3 will leave us, including Chives. Once Cool Assassin, James White and Appy have all set valid lap times, Chives will be one of the 3 to leave us. Can't stand any track, Chives. Yeah, I know I'll get there, but it just seems like nothing's working at the moment, which is a shame. I was hoping that it would just be, I could spectate a race and it wouldn't be an issue, but it seems to be affected by that as well, so we'll just wait and see. We've got Wiggles, Kemmets and Ross all separated by less than 0.5 of a second at the top. Cool Assassin is on an outlap. James White and Appy are on flyers. Doesn't have to be anything too spectacular. Tidiest Bear's on a 1 minute 26.4. So he could be at risk. And also Flew and Pete in the mid to low 1 minute 23s. Appy is invalidated. James White is coming through the middle portion of the lap now. Going a little bit wide. Fairly goes fastest on a 1:21.9. Driver of might be Cool Assassin behind James White actually, going a little bit wide at the right hander at the end of the DRS straight. Need to pick your braking point very well. Here comes James White across the line, and it's a 1:23.9. That Cool Assassin has backed off. Very difficult track. Sector 1, you've got the first couple of corners which you need to pick your braking point and you turn in very, very carefully. You can easily invalidate and get a warning. Could easily spin and crash actually. So something to look out for this week. You've got the big DRS zones towards the start-finish line where Appy is now, and coming out of the first couple of corners. Appy goes 10th, only 100th behind Dr. Edward in P9, and only a 10th away from his teammate. Flew, you'd have to think that he might be under a little bit of pressure here on a 23.3. However, still has a 6/10 gap behind James White and a few seconds ahead of Tidiest Bear, but good chance of James and Bear improving in the last few minutes, so never a bad idea for Flew to get out there and try and shave some tenths off his time, and he is fractionally up on his personal best in Sector 2. even just 100th of a second or a 10th of a second will put him up into maybe 11th place. Oh, and that's a mistake coming out of the right-hander, just getting on the exit curb a little bit too much, and that lap may be gone. He may have to go for another one, perhaps with some new tyres on his car. Tidy spare now on a new flyer. See if he can not only beat the 1 minute 26.4 that he has set previously, but see if he can get into Q2. He's a 10th up, so maybe he didn't have a great Sector 2 or Sector 3 on his time lap. Cool Assassin is back out on the track for an out lap, and it's do or die for Cool Assassin. Needs to get a valid lap time on the board, otherwise he will be leaving us in the first part of qualifying. And Tidy's bet is 1.5 seconds up. Needs around about a 3-second improvement. Dipping a wheel onto the grass. And running wide at that right-hander, just as many others have done already this evening. Could be a sign of things to come for this week's festivities. And good evening to you, Dayman. Currently in P12 and in the pits, only a 10th away from Flew, who we said might be in a little bit of danger, so I have to see if Dayman can make it through. He's still in the pits, so a good chance that he won't be able to get out for another lap, as is Flew actually, so Dayman I'm sure will be a little bit happier that Flew is still in the pits. Flew has retired, so no improvement from the Frenchman, and we'll have to see if the Tidiest Bear can set a tidy lap time. This one won't count, unfortunately, for him. Invalidation Central. Population Tidiest Bear 361. Let's go on board with Cool Assassin now. Oh, and he has lost it. Keeps it together at the end of turn 1. I thought he was a goner flying into the wall. I was expecting to see that Alpine bits of front wing flying everywhere, but manages to avoid that. But that may have ruined his one and only opportunity to get out of Q1 and into Q2. SLR Connor goes second fastest. He was in the mid pack around 11th, I think he was, but has improved and showing that he's got similar pace to his teammate AMS Fairley. Them two have been on a season-long battle in terms of qualifying results. Of course, nothing to compare Assassin's lap times to his previous best, because he hasn't got a valid lap time on the board, so we're just going to have to find out what he does as it comes on the timing screens. Struggling with this track a bit, says Dayman. Yep, I feel your pain. Not one of my best or my favourite. Cool Assassin, can he make it through with that earlier mistake? No, he can't. He just misses out on James White's time by a 10th of a second. We got Tidiest Bear out on a lap. Although I think... no, he managed to get round for a new lap. So... watch out for Tidiest Bear. Also, James White is under a little bit of pressure here. Goes 11th fastest, and he is now through. It will be Chives, Cool Assassin, and Tidiest Bear leaving this session if the Williams driver can't improve by around 3 seconds. Have to wait and see what he does now across the line. Stays 17th, only 3 tenths away from Cool Assassin. So there we have it. First 3 to exit qualifying this week on the IIRL channel are Chives with that crash early in the session, Tidiest Bear and James White. Confirmation then. Fairley and Connor, 2 Mercedes out in front again. Can anyone stop them? Mr. Wiggles and Kemments will be hurting, certainly hoping for that. Ross, Ryan, Pete, Prev, that guy, SLL Block on his debut, James White, Dr. Edward, Appy Dayman, and Flew. And I do apologise, I said James White was out, it's not his cool assassin. So then as Q2 gets underway, this is where strategy takes centre stage. Any drivers that are in the chat right now, let us know what the weather's doing for the race. As for quali, we can safely assume it's going to be blazing sunshine. But as for the race, we do not currently know, so please do let us know in the chat what the race weather is doing. There was a couple of minute break before the first driver went out in Q1, so I think there may be a hint of rain on the horizon. But that remains to be confirmed. Chai says he didn't check, don't worry about it. Got Dayman in the chat, got Fairley in the chat as well, and Mr. Wiggles too. So hopefully one of those people will let us know. Dry race too, thank you Dayman, appreciate that. A little bit more about this Albert Park circuit, currently being redeveloped to make it a little bit better for overtaking. Hopefully we'll see that on the new game. And good evening, Owl Race. Yep, I've resorted back to streaming on the Xbox instead of the PC, which is a shame because we don't get all the fancy graphics. You'll have to listen to my voice a little bit more. Incidentally, if you want to get to sleep really quickly tonight, rewatch the stream. I'm sure my voice will send you to sleep in half a second. So SL O'Connor then, we'll join him for a tour of the Albert Park circuit. As we said earlier in Q1, turn 1 and turn 2, pick your braking point and your turning point, easy to invalidate. You get some DRS down the main straight and this towards turn 3, which is an action point in the race, so watch out for overtakes. Turn 4 trickier than it looks, especially on those outside sausage curves, need to be very careful. Turn 5, it is flat out, but be careful depending on your setup, you can run into some problems with oversteer. Again, you can use the exit curve there of that left-hander to guide you out of turn 6. Run down towards turn 9, Clark Corner, and through 10 it's full throttle. No DRS because there is a slight kink and it's not long enough before this very fast chicane, which a lot of people do struggle with, including myself. You do get some DRS on the exit though, and you do get a bit of a run on the car in front. You need to be super close if you want to overtake though into that right hand corner, otherwise known as turn 13. Turn 14, not an overtaking point, or is turn 15, but you may see a couple of dive bombs down the inside of that left-hander. Definitely no strangers to some dive bombs on this game. Coming out of turn 16, get a good exit, because if you're defending from cars behind, you do need to defend from 2 DRS zones. So getting turn 16 and the final corner right are very important in the race. Yeah, it's a shame, but it is what it is, and it doesn't stop stream being able to go out, so if we can get a stream out, we'll get a stream out. APS Happy, currently the only one to set a lap time on the medium tyre, although Ryan is coming around the final couple of corners now to do the same thing. Prev goes faster than his teammate by a second, and Ryan goes faster than Prev by 0.3 of a second. Hemant's only half a second away from SLR Connor, and Pete jumps in now as the fastest runner on the medium compound tyre. 23.4 for the Alpha Tauri driver. SLR Block, wishing him good luck and a good race for his debut here this evening in the McLaren. Got Ryan as his teammate, who has not long joined IIRL either, so could call them inexperienced, but that remains to be seen. Could have had plenty of other experience in other leagues and other forms of racing. And should be an interesting pairing at McLaren to see which one of those two will come out on top, because they do seem very quick in the early stages of their time in IIRL, but yeah, waiting to see which one is the quicker driver. Locke goes 9/10 ahead of his teammate, however he is using the soft compound tyre, so I would say that that's a decent pairing at McLaren, very similarly matched pace. Ross is using the yellow mark medium compounds, however there's already 4 times on both sets of tyres here, so it will probably be the case that those on the medium tyres will have to go out again on the softs. Maybe just seeing if they can get through at the moment. AMS Fairley is on the mediums, and that's a very, leisurely time by his standards, but I'm sure he will go again. Possibly may have made a mistake at some point in the lap, so backed off. Recharging the battery, very important on this game. And Dayman with an even more leisurely 2 minutes and 1 second. That's more like my kind of time when I'm driving this track. 2 minutes sounds about right for me. So definitely expect to see Dayman go quicker than that. Ross coming out the final corner. Let's see, can he make it fastest of the mediums? Yes, he can. 1 minute 23.2. Dr. Edward coming through the end of Sector 1. Beautiful part of the track when you go through the trees. Get a lot of the shade before you're thrown out into the Australia sun. Evening, Connor. Hope you're well, mate. Currently sitting pretty at the top of the timing screens, but still 7.5 minutes to go. Anything can still change, of course. Bit of a lift there from Edward through the middle chicane of the lap. As for this Grand Prix, well, it's been around since 1996, so coming up for 25 years on the F1 calendar consecutively. Definitely would not feel like Formula 1 without this track, even though it's not the best for overtaking. It does create some good races in its history. I'm well, thank you, Connor. I'm well, thank you. Yeah, it took over from Adelaide, the Adelaide Circuit, which hosted the race from 1985 to 1995. And Albert Park is a historic track which held 2 non-championship Australian Grand Prix races in 1953 and 1956 on a shorter anti-clockwise track. So you can tell, with this being quite a lengthy and clockwise track, that the circuit has gone over under some massive evolution in its history and continues to do so today with the new track layout. Which hopefully should grace our screens in about 2 months' time when the new Formula 1 season starts. Mr. Wiggles goes third fastest. That guy coming into the pits, invalidating his time. And of course drivers need to be careful that they don't crash out of this track. It is officially named as a street circuit, although there are lots of patches of grass surrounding the tarmac. But the walls are very tight here, easy to lose it. Go into a barrier and lose your wheel. James White got into 11th place in Q1. If he does the same, he won't be going through to Q3, sorry. And this lap won't count, unfortunately for him. AMS Fairley ditches the mediums. And running wide at turn 5. Don't see that very often. But Fairley will have to recharge the battery and go again. Still 4 minutes of time left in the session, so no cause to panic right now. Appy is now out on the soft compound tyre as well. But you can see everyone has fitted the soft tyre. But these are their best lap times. And thank you for the follow, TFS Schumacher. Appreciate that. Hope you're really well. Hope you enjoy the action here this evening. And of course, we've got streams on Thursday and Sunday night as well for Assist Tier 1 and Assist Tier 2. So tune in for them if you want to. So APS Appy, currently in the drop zone but has fitted the red bar soft tyre, goes up to 5th fastest, ahead of all of the medium runners. Still waiting to see where those medium runners will filter into the pack as they set soft compound times. So we still don't know who's really in trouble right now. Prev goes ahead of his teammate by, again, you guessed it, 0.5 of a second, just as in Q1. And James White has crashed, and that is at the exit of the final corner, I believe. Have to go on board with that guy, and yeah, you see it, the Red Bull in the wall. So, yeah, not quite sure what's happened there. But James White is out of the session. We'll be starting 15th place for the race, which will be happening in about 25 minutes time. Top 4 all in the pits, perhaps a little bit more comfortable at this moment in time. Still time for them to come out on track and go for another run, as is Pete, who is also in the pits. He's in 8th place, so a little bit less safe, and his time's on mediums. So if Pete wants any chance of going through, he'll need to come out on the pits in the next 5 to 10 seconds. Plenty of people on laps. Ross goes 2nd fastest in the Alfa Romeo. 122.0 for him. So that should probably see him through, as Prev now joins a group of drivers in the pits. Pete is now out on track, and plenty of time for him to come round to start a new lap, but it will be a one-shot quali for him now. Only one opportunity for Pete to set a quick enough lap time, and what can Flew do? He's currently in 11th. He jumps up to 9th. Currently the slowest of the soft runners, but there's no guarantee that any of these medium runners will set a good lap time. Just have to wait and see. Ryan goes 3rd fastest, and that will probably see him through as Kemmets retires in the pits. That guy improves from 14th and pops it in P7, fractionally behind SLR Block. Dr. Edward improves to 6th fastest. Nice lap from him. AMS Fairley would be a massive shock if he were to not make it through to Q3, given he has 6 or 7 pole positions this season in this tier. Of course, with only 15 seconds left of the session, this will be their one and only run for those out on track right now. APS Appy pits and can't improve on his 1 minute 22.9. He is the time to beat. Dayman in the pits, so we'll start 13th. That is, as long as Fairley can't improve on his current time. Looks like a pretty good lap from the Mercedes driver, and knowing his pace all season, would not be a surprise to see him jump to the top here. And, well, it's not top, it's second, but it's through. Just waiting on one final driver. Dr. Edward, I think, is on an in lap. And Pete has invalidated at turns 7 and 8. And that has massively cost him, because now he will be ending the session in 13th place. And he will be dropping out of Q2. And I'm sure Pete will be gutted by that. So there you have it, the 5 leaving us. James White with the crash in the middle of the session. Dayman, who says in chat that he screwed it big time, was too slow getting around. Very unfortunate, happens sometimes. Pete with that invalidation. Flew and Appy, who also missed a chance to improve his lap time, so maybe an invalidation there for the Ferrari driver. But as for Connor, Fairley, Ross, Ryan, Clements, Wiggles, Edward, Block, that guy and Prev, we've got a 12-minute Q3 session coming up. The fight for pole, you do not want to miss it. Those times are looking pretty close at the moment. Confirmation then, those are your top 10. And plenty of different constructors in there. Got 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes. As for that, all other different cars, Alfa Romeo, Williams, Haas, Aston Martin and Ferrari and Alpine. Plenty of constructors to shake things up a bit. And good evening to you, Demon. Glad to have you back in the streams. We've missed you, mate. We really have missed you. But yeah, I hope you are really well. Always more enjoyable watching Q3 than being in it anyways. Well, glad you get to enjoy Q3 just watching it. Some people might be frustrated that they're not driving it, so glad that you enjoy watching it just as much. As Q3 starts, strategy takes a back seat, raw pace takes over, and there's a big rush of cars out at the start of Q3. You're actually listening to me. Yes, that is quite rare. Very congested at the front. We've got Prev leading the pack, and he's got a little bit of wiggle room, no pun intended. As the next car on track, I believe, might be Clements, who is leading a train of McLaren of Ryan. Then I think we have SLR Connor is in this train, and behind him we have the Haas of Mr. Wiggles. So 4 drivers very close to each other right now, which may change their strategy for starting a new lap. SL O'Connor wants to get past Ryan as quickly as possible. But of course you don't want to race in Q3 because you'll ruin your tyres for your flying lap. Just finished work, probably sleep in 2 seconds after 14-hour shift. Yeah, that sounds pretty arduous. Hope your shift went well. So Prev narrowly made it into Q3. Can he turn some heads here and set in a good lap time? Dr. Edwards still in the pits, so maybe only going for one run. But he is coming out the pits as we speak. And as we speak, Ross is going into the pits. So maybe Ross got some damage on his outlap. Or maybe set the wrong set of tyres, who knows? Oh no, I'm just saying good to have you back around, Demon. Whether you do the streams or not. Good to see you back in the chat, that's all. You're only here to get one troll comment. Well, it has been probably a good year since you trolled me in stream, so there we go. Prayer of 1 minute 22.6. Quickly beaten by Cummins, who goes half a second faster. Ryan does a 1 minute 22.2 on the nose. Amos fairly next across the line, and he cannot manage a 1 minute 21 like his teammate has done, and ends up settling for second at the moment, 7 thousandths behind Cummins. Locke goes into fourth, 1 minute 22.5. Mr. Wiggles is on a second run. Ross is back out onto the track. Dr. Edward is now out onto the track, as we mentioned. Connor's into the pits. That guy, Mr. Wiggles, probably with invalidation on their first attempt. That guy does set a lap time, but it is quite slow, so expect to see that one beaten in the next few minutes' time. Thank you for the follow, WOR Villeneuve. Appreciate that. I hope you're enjoying the streams. Streams on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday evening, respectively. And Mr. Wiggles needs to be fortunate here that Alpine doesn't get in the way. Indeed, into the pits it goes. Fairley does manage a 1 minute 21.8 on his second attempt, and Mr. Wiggles flies up there into second place, only a couple of tenths away from AMS Fairley, who is our driver's leader at the moment. Oh, and Wiggles with a moment there in turns 1 and 2. Fortunate that that car is not retired and out of the session. But it is a good lap there from Mr. Wiggles, up into seconds. Still got 6 minutes left of Q3, plenty of time for drivers to come back out on track. Driver coming across the line. Dr. Edward goes 7th on a 1 minute 22.8. Ross very committed through that middle sector, and especially that chicane. I'm going to say that fast chicane in sector 2 is a lot easier if you have the wheel. Turning and stability a lot better on wheel than on pad. So for those wheel users out there, definitely have a bit of an advantage over myself and others who used the pad. Ross goes second fastest. Nice lap there from him. Puts himself onto the front row of the grid provisionally. SL O'Connor goes purple on the track map in Sector 1. Could be on for a good lap here. He has been kind of the one to maybe put himself half a tenth ahead of everyone else in this evening's festivities so far. Let's wait and see if he can go ahead of his teammate here, who has set a very good lap at the moment, but he does invalidate through that fast chicane. So he'll have to either back off and go for a new lap after this, or go in for a new set of tyres. Still plenty of time, but the more that Connor invalidates, it won't help his confidence in terms of getting that good lap on the board. The wheel is only good if you're on the wheel. I guess you're right. There are distinct advantages to driving on wheel than on pads. The game's always been forcing drivers to buy a wheel to get faster. Spend more money and you'll be faster. That's consumerism. Works for many people. SL O'Connor again with a purple first sector. His teammate and Mr. Wiggles and that guy out on track. Prev is also on a flyer and coming to the end of Sector 3. And Connor sets the second sector purple as well. This could be the lap to beat. With only 3 minutes left, there's not much time to improve. Aston Martin coming down the main straight now. That guy is starting a new lap and definitely expect to see his time beaten. Here comes Connor now, and it's a 1:21.3. That definitely is the time to beat. And what a time it is. Half a second he has on his teammate. Can Fairley, Ross, Wiggles and Kemments challenge? It's a very good lap. That guy has an invalidation on that specific lap. What about Prev? They've got some slipstream from the Williams down the straight, but the Williams does get out of the way, which means Prev won't have got too much of an advantage there. Fairley and Wiggles now on new laps, as is Ryan. That guy has invalidated his attempts, so he'll need to go again. Still a couple of minutes left to do so. Prev improves his time, but not his place. Kemments also out on track, starting a new lap. And indeed, people impressed in the chat by Connor's lap time there. Very good lap time, it has to be said. And Connor does pit. No time for him to come back out on track, so that is the time to beat. And Fairley is a quarter of a second up through the second sector. Needs a lot more time in this last sector if he wants to beat his teammate. Currently, it's so far so good. One thing you don't want to do right now is invalidate, because you've got less than a tenth to Ross and Wiggles behind. Wiggles has improved to a 1 minute 21.9 since his first attempt. See what Fairley can do. Across the line he comes, and he does go fastest by 1 millisecond. He goes onto provisional pole by 1,000th of a second. You just can't write this. No one could have predicted. No one would have been in chat saying, oh, Fairley's going to beat his teammate by 1 millisecond. This game always never surprises us. Never fails to surprise us. And the big question is, can Ross challenge? Cummins has gone P3 on his time. Ryan has now jumped up into the 1 minute 21s too. He's gone 5th fastest. SLR Block and Prev all very close in the 1 minute 22.2s. Here comes Ross now. Jumps back up into 3rd by 3 milliseconds himself. Very close here between some of these drivers. Mr. Wiggles improves to 1 minute 21.7 and takes that 3rd place away from Ross. Ryan is on a slow lap, I believe. What about his teammate SLR Block? On his debut, can he beat his teammate on his first qualifying session in IIRL? Looked like a tiny bit of a lock up there into 15, but 3:16 looks pretty planted. Across the line, will he improve? Yes, he does. He goes P3. Wow, great lap time there from Blockman. Cummins has invalidated, and when you look at the start of Q1, where there was only 1 or 2 drivers in the 1 minute 21s, to the end of Q3 where there are 7 drivers in the 1 minute 21s. Definitely these drivers getting better the more laps they put in. There you have it. An absolutely incredible battle at the top between Connor and Fairley. But it is AMS Fairley who comes out on top by 1,000th of a second. But the good news for us is that the top 7 are all within half a second. Not too much to separate us going into the race. Fairley, Connor on the front row, then Block and Wiggles, Ross and Cummins, Ryan and Prev, Dr. Edward, and that guy on the 5th row of the grid. Well, that was certainly an eventful qualifying. I think we can call that one a success. Tick the box. Sweaty, says Fairley. Is that because you were pushing so hard you're now sweaty? Yep, Hyper, you did see that right. Gap, only 1 millisecond between AMS Fairley and SLR Connor. We do have a 5-minute gap. Break. Just so people can stretch their legs or do whatever they need to do to prepare for this race. Of course, tyre strategies will be important at this point. Everyone's going to be on the soft tyre, so everyone should be on an identical strategy. Unless there's an early safety car, you may see some people dive into the pits for a different strategy. Guys, after that early exit in Q1, I'm sure we'll be excited to maybe do something from the back of the grid and get up into the points. Maybe challenge for a top 5 spot. And with only a couple of minutes left, take you through the drivers' standings. AMS Fairley leads on 263 points. He has an 87-point gap on second place Ross, who gained 25 points last week. Ross winning the sprint race at Brazil and the feature race. Prev not too far behind Ross as well. He's still in with a shot of the championship. He's 96 points adrift of Fairley on 167. And it's behind him that really drivers are starting to mathematically drop out of a chance. We have 6 races left of the season. We have Australia. Next week we're in China. Then we have Monza, Portugal, Jeddah. And finally at Abu Dhabi. So with 6 races left, AMS Fairley leads the championship by 87 points. Get the feeling that a couple of race wins out of these final 6 races and the championship will be his. Definitely you could say it is his championship to lose. And that of course could put some drivers under pressure, but could also put some drivers at ease. As for constructors, it's a little bit closer. Mercedes pair of Fairley and Connor are winning by 45 points, but Dr. Edward and Cool Assassin are not too far behind, only 45-point gap between the top, so still mathematically possible for Mercedes, Alpine, Alfa Romeo and Ferrari. However, definitely Mercedes and AMS Fairley looking like they are the ones to beat. Very close here to getting underway. We'll have a formation lap where we'll take you through people tyre strategies, see where they are on the grid, see how the race is poised for the start, and then a 50% race to follow. Hey Shimak, how you doing, mate? Hope you're well. We're here, IIRL, first stream of the week, and the formation lap gets underway. So used to seeing those 2 Mercedes on the front row of the grid. Have to wait and see if they'll be on the front row of the grid in the next Formula 1 season in real life, with all the new regulations and changes. Hard to tell where anyone's going to be. We may even see Nikita Mazepin on the front row of the grid next season. It could happen. You never know. So right here and right now, though, you see the predicted pit stop strategy. It's a soft to hard or it's a 2-stop. And these are the tyre strategies that people have chosen. And it's soft tyres for 16 of the 18 drivers. We know the top 10 must start on used softs. So Appy on a fresh set of soft tyres might have a decent chance at a good start here. Called Assassin using the mediums for the first stint. You may be going for a medium soft here. Try and extend the life of those mediums in the first stint. And Thaddeus Bear onto the white marked hard compound tyres, looking for a super long first stint. Perhaps maybe hoping for a safety car after the first round of pit stops. That's ideal for Assassin and Thaddeus Bear. Forget about Chives, he's at the back of the field. He is our featured driver, so we'll try and catch him with Chives at some certain points in the race. Just waiting for the drivers to form the grid. I'm sure this is going to be a race you don't want to miss. However, with that bright green and blue helmet from Chives, may have some problems sleeping tonight. Australian Grand Prix is underway, and it looks like the Williams of Kemmets has had an absolute flyer there, trying to get past Wiggles on the left-hand side of your screen, but Wiggles having none of it. Meanwhile, Fairley and Connor have had good starts for them, maintaining positions. Ross and Block going side by side. And now Mr. Wiggles is pressurising Block for 5th place. We've got another McLaren on the outside, this time Kemmets defending from Ryan, but Ryan round the outside of turn 3 there. Nice move there from the McLaren driver. Ryan is now right behind his teammate, as Ross is now on the back of Connor, who seems to have maybe dropped a few tenths behind his teammate in that first sector, as we have Chives already up to 12th place off the start, and Pete is falling down the field. The yellow flag in sector 2, and Tiniest Bear to 17th now past Pete. Have to keep an eye on Chives as he makes his way potentially through the field. Cool Assassin, also a good start from him. He's up 2 places on this opening lap, as Mr. Wiggles and Ross make that Ross and Connor even, going very close. Tidiest Bear has retired, and that is at the end of the fast sector. Will there be a safety car in the opening lap of this race? Seems like all the drivers have gone past the incident now, so we may get away with not having a safety car. There's still yellow flags. Fairly leads from Connor, Ross, Wiggles, Block, Ryan, Kemmets, Prev, Edward, Appy, he's up a place, and Flew, Chives, who's up a very impressive 6 on that opening lap. Cool Assassin, that guy pits, and onto a new set of mediums, as in the background we see Mr. Wiggles is off the track at the exit of turn 3 and losing a lot of ground on his rivals. He's down to 12th now behind Chives. These top 3 look like they want to drop those 2 McLarens as quickly as possible. Remember, next time around DRS will be activated on lap 3. But Block still staying in contention. Chives is past Flew and now up into the points. Dr. Edward, as it stands, won't get DRS on Prev in front of him, and maybe at risk of losing places to Appy and Chives and Flew and Mr. Wiggles. Block is on the charge now, new fastest lap of the race. DRS is now enabled, and Essel O'Connor has made a mistake through the first corner. He's got a little bit too wide, and he's lost some ground here. He's lost ground on not only Ross, but Block finds himself in a fight for the podium now, rather than in a fight for the lead. Dayman with the first time penalty of the evening. 3 seconds added to his time at the end of the race. Kemmets trying to fight back on Ryan after Ryan got past him on the opening lap around the outside into turn 3. It was a good move from Ryan. Kemmets still holding on to the back of that McLaren, hoping for a sniff of a chance to get past back into 5th. Chives is up into 10th, but he does have a 3-second time penalty now, and looking to outbrake Appy. Will do well to get round Appy at the outside of that corner, and Appy looked like in turn 14 just struggling slightly. Appy won't have DRS on Dr. Edward now, which means that... Oh, and there's someone round. SL O'Connor's round. Preve is now past Kemmons. What's happened to Kemmons? I reckon maybe... Oh, and there's a bit of a front wing. Chives has lost his front wing. It's all going on in the space of a couple of corners. Kemmons losing places, Connor losing places, and Chives losing control of his front wing. In all of that now, Flew has made his way past Dr. Edward, who seems to have real big damage on his Alpine car, and moving out of the way. This has shaken up the field so much now. We've got Connor down the field, we've got Wiggles down the field, we've got Dr. Edward really struggling now, we've got Chives without a wing. This means now Cool Assassin outbraking Flew, who I think also has damage. Cool Assassin's up into 8th place and absolutely licking his lips. And now we've got a battle for the leads. Fairly trying to gain back the race lead on the inside of Ross at turn 12 there, but not working. Ross taking the lead, and now there's a Mclaren battle going behind these two. Kemmons is in 5th and under attack from Preve. Appy has gained a lot of places through some of these drivers' misfortunes. And that might be Dayman who's being lapped right now. It looks like a mistake or some damage for him. I wonder if the stewards are going to get any of those incidents sent into them after the race. A whole load of pitters, Flew, Chives, Connor and Edward. That guy benefiting from it. He's up into 11th. Mr. Wiggles pitted a lap prior to them. He's up into 12th now. Dayman really struggling. Yellow flags in sector 1 for the Haas car. Aim is fairly sticking to the back of Ross like glue. Still only on lap 5, and it feels like we've had enough drama for a 25% race. Still plenty more to come from this evening. These two starting to drop the two McLarens now, and Kemmons is closing on Ryan and Block, and he's taking Preve with him. So that battle for 3rd may be a 4-way battle for 3rd in a few laps' time. Fairly getting very close to the back of Ross. Oh, and he's lost it at the end of turn 1. And a McLaren flying off. That's Ryan. He's lost 3rd now to his teammate. And he's lost a lot more than that. He's lost some front wing. Safety car is out. No one has retired from that, but there is just a lot of debris on the track, it would seem. Lap 6, there is a safety car out. And it seems like all the drivers here are dropping like flies tonight. Losing the rear end as these soft tyres get very, very worn. Getting very difficult to drive the car. Dayman retires in the pits. Chives now pits. And the field will be bunched up. I wonder if Ross will pit and go to an alternate strategy, or whether he'll stay out and stay on a one-stop. What about Cool Assassin? He's been on the medium since the since the first lap. I wonder if he'll stay out and maybe try and make that one-stop work, medium to soft. Wasn't me that caused the safety car, said Dayman, but I got underfloor damage and the car was undrivable. Yeah, that's... I think it was one of the McLarens at turn 2 who hit the wall, and there was a lot of debris on track. I think that's what caused the safety car. Anyways, loads of people into the pits. Indeed, Cool Assassin does stay out, probably making that one stop possible. James White, though, stays out, and from 15th to 2nd. Still does need to make a pit stop though, so still can't really determine what's going to happen. We've got 2 drivers on the hard compound tyres. We've got AMS Fairley, Kemmons, so they'll be hoping to get those tyres to the end. Ross, meanwhile, is on the medium tyres and will be hoping to get past James and Assassin as quickly as possible. Try and make those medium tyre advantage that he has on AMS Fairley work in his favour. Rode along the long sausage curve at the end of turn 4. Ruin your floor. I was on it so long I thought it was Tony Hawk. Comment of the week, right there from Dayman. So then, off the start, we got Cool Assassin up 15 places. James White is up 13. But of course, they have yet to pit. We got Ross who's up a couple of places. Fairly started in the lead, and that's a time penalty. I didn't see that happen. 5 seconds. So maybe some collision of the safety car, or maybe speeding in the pit lane. But we did miss that one in real time. Fairley has a 5-second time penalty. SLR Block is down a couple of places, but still, once those top 2 have pitted, he should be in 3rd place where he started. Kemmons in 6th. Prev and Appy, 2 Mercedes, and SLR Connor has crashed in the sector, in the middle chicane in sector 2. And he has had a rather unfortunate evening in the race. Connor, after very impressive qualifying, just missing out on pole by 1 millisecond. Unfortunately, the race hasn't gone his way, and he will not be able to score points this evening. Safety car is in this lap. Chives has an orange floor, and he's at the back of the field. So that is not good news from his perspective. We got Wiggles who's down 7 after that earlier incident, and Dr. Edward also with some damage in that first 7 laps. He's down 5 places, but APS Appy seems to be the main winner right now. Cool Assassin leads the pack at the start of lap 9 to restart this Australian Grand Prix, and there comes Ross down the inside of James White, and side by side they're going. That is very respectful driving from the pair of them. Ross makes the move done on James. Here comes Fairley now, looking down the inside of the Red Bull, making it another Red Bull versus Mercedes battle, as if we've had too many of them this year. Ross, I'm sure, will be hoping to hunt down the race leader as quickly as possible. I think a smoke there perhaps from Ross as he reduces that gap to 5/10 with our race leader, and Ross will be hoping that James White can hold up Fairley as much as possible so that Ross will not be under threat from Fairley when DRS is enabled. Fairley, of course, on the hard compound tyre. Ross is on the medium compound tyre, so Ross has to do well if he wants to go to the end of the race on that set of tyres, and he does take the lead away from Cool Assassin. Fairley, meanwhile, is still behind James White, as behind we see Ryan, who is on the back of APS Appy. Lap 10 of 29, still at 1/3 race distance. We've still got 20 more laps to go, and I'm sure plenty more entertainment. Fairly now struggling perhaps to get past James White. Those hard tyres may not be firing up in the way that he expected or wanted them to. And now he's under a little bit of a pressure from Ken Block in 5th place, the legendary Gymkhana racing driver. How I wish Ken Block were driving a Formula 1 car. Cool Assassin, bit of a mistake there in Sector 2. He's now dropped to 2.1 seconds behind our race leader, and the more this carries on, Ross will be licking his chops out in front. Chive says car is undrivable. That is a shame. Always a shame when drivers get damage to their side pod or underbody, and the car is just so understeery. Completely feel for any driver who has to go through that. Anyways, DRS is now activated. James White with that lovely helmet is going to get the advantages in Sector 2. Of course, the first 2 DRS zones on the main straight and towards turn 3 are from one detection zone here, so no DRS on that occasion. That's why you didn't see the Red Bull rear wing open. There is a second DRS zone which we are approaching, but James White could get this move done on Cool Assassin before that move, before that part of the track. Assassin defending well, and it looks like James White is now being held up by Cool Assassin, which means that AMS Fairley is back into this fight. And here comes the DRS. James White going a bit wide. Very fortunate to not spin and crash that car, as Mr. Wiggles gets a time penalty. DRS. AMS Fairley now with the bit between his teeth, and he's got 2nd place on track due to James's wide chicane and plenty of fighting. You can see behind James White and Kemments going side by side through turn 13. Now Ryan meanwhile is now splitting the 2 Ferraris. James White has DRS, which means Prev's job of getting past the Red Bull is a lot harder, but he's got a really good exit on James here and almost close to contact. Side by side now down to turn 3. Prev braking later of the 2, and a nice move there. James White, those tyres getting pretty old, but may have an advantage in strategy in a few laps time. Just have to wait and see when all these drivers pit. Kemments, we're seeing a lot of very aesthetically pleasing helmets here this evening. Oh, and Kemments, talking of aesthetically pleasing, that corner not aesthetically pleasing for Kemments. Drives into the pits and speeding as he does. Oh, and Appy's gone. You just saw in the background there Ferrari going into the barrier. Safety car is out, and Appy is out of the race. You just saw in the background there someone losing it and into the wall, and Appy was in a bit of a fight, I think, with either Wiggles or James White or Ryan, one of the three drivers there, in a fight with them. Cool Assassin pits, as does James White. This safety car is really good news for them, actually. And this safety car is bad news for our race leader Ross. He had a 5-second lead out in the front, and let's not forget Fairley has a time penalty. So Ross was looking very good here for the race win. This safety car has now thrown things up into the air. Four retirements now from the Australian Grand Prix. Lap 13 of 29, approaching half race distance. Ross leads. Amos Fairley is in second with a 5-second time penalty. Then we got SLR Block, Clements, Ryan, Pete, who has a 3-second time penalty. Cool Assassin, after making a pit stop, onto new softs. So Cool Assassin definitely will need to stop again, but he definitely has a really good set of tyres on his car. He has 3 seconds. We got Prev, James White, Mr. Wiggles rounding out the top 10, but he has a time penalty too. Flew is in 11th. His teammate, that guy, is behind. As what's happening with Cool Assassin? Is he spun? He's into the pits. And he decides that he wants to be on mediums for the rest of the race. So, Flew is now up into 10th. That guy, his teammate behind, is in 11th. And 9 seconds of time penalties will be added to the end of his race. Dr. Edward is in 12th. No penalties, so maybe in with a shot of jumping some of the drivers ahead who have some time penalties. Definitely, oh, and a spinner, that guy on those hard tyres. He's now lost track position to Dr. Edward, but it doesn't look like any harm has come to his car. Cool Assassin, after that pit stop, is in 13th and maintains his position over Chives due to Chives, I think, being lapped, but I may be wrong. Anyways, Chives into the pits again, and a new wing will be going onto his car, serving a 5-second time penalty, and onto a brand new set of mediums. Interesting to see if Chives can catch up before the safety car is in, and well, there you have it, safety car in this lap. Chives will be on. We'll be hoping for another safety car where he can catch up to the back of the pack. For the top 6, well, they pitted under the first safety car just a handful of laps ago. They'll be hoping to make their tyres stretch to the end. For everyone else, from 7th place Prev downwards, they will certainly be looking to go to the end of the race, and their tyres are going to be in much better condition. So this top 6 now have some pressure to stay ahead of the chasing pack. And now the field is bunched up. We're going to get some more racing on our hands. We've got Ryan and Clements very close in a battle for 4th. James White being overtaken by Edward, Flew and Wiggles and that guy, so not a very good restart for James White. However, still in the fray to getting some places up. That guy making his way back up the field. Now he's passed Dr. Edward up into 10th place. And Ross is making a gap on AMS Fairley. 1.2 seconds is the gap out front. Don't forget, DRS is activated on the 3rd lap of the safety car restart. So still plenty of time for Fairley to close that gap to within a second and try and get that DRS advantage on our race leader. One driver who perhaps has gone under the radar so far, but looks like he's in a good situation right now, is Prez. Those mediums can probably last the rest of the race pretty comfortably, and he's close enough to Pete to perhaps mount a challenge for a top 5 finish. So we'll have to watch out for Prez. Ross now leads Fairley by 1.6 seconds. Lap 16 of 29. Keep with the time penalty. That makes it 6 seconds for the AlphaTauri driver, which means he may lose places to Prez, Wiggles and Flew. Chives really struggling out there. Another time penalty. I think that's 9 seconds now. And that orange floor damage for Chives really making his job a lot harder here this evening. He is into the pits. Again, where I'm sure he will be lapped by our race leader, who now has a 2-second gap on AMS Fairley. Kemmets losing a little bit of ground on Ryan. Now Ryan, no DRS, but using overtake to get alongside and ahead of the Williams. Ryan now has his teammate 1.3 seconds up the roads. Pete not going to let those time penalties stop him from making moves up the fields. He's in 6th. Still, decent handful of points on the board here for Pete if he can avoid getting any more time penalties. Look like maybe a warning. Mr. Wiggles, after that first stint incident where he ran off at the end of turn 3, is back in the fray. 8th place for him, although time penalty now. That is number 2. I think he's up to 6 seconds alongside Prez. Prez defending well and using the inside line at turn 12 to his advantage. And all 4 of these drivers very, very close. Kemmets defending. Here comes Ryan on his teammate, and that gap has shrunk considerably between those 2 McLarens in this lap. Ryan is flying. Thank you for the follow, BTX 10 and 90, 81, not 91. Appreciate the follow, and hope you enjoy the streams. Pete falling down the field. What's happened to Pete? May have gone a little bit too deep into one of these corners, maybe turn 3 or turn 4. Prez and Wiggles are up ahead of him now. Kemmets is up into 5th place. And Tay, hello to you. Good evening to you, Tay. Yes, Appy unfortunately has retired. Brought out the safety car on lap 14, I think it was. Crashing at the end of the fast chicane. And we have Prez and Wiggles getting that move done at the same corner he attempted last lap. Just tuning in to scout some strategies. Well, best of luck for your own race this week. Ross leads fairly by 3.2 seconds. Still 10 and a bit laps left. AMS Fairley has a 5-second time penalty. Ryan is ahead of his teammate now and looking to make a dent in Fairley's 1.8 second lead over Ryan. Lock. Kemmets with the time penalty has DRS on the McLaren. Not quite close enough to go for a move there into 13, but we'll get a nice bit of DRS down the main straight. Gaps stabilise this lap between Ross and Fairley at 3.1 and Fairley at Ryan at 1.7 seconds. However, Kemmets is looking to get past SLR Block. Mr. Wiggles is being dragged along with Kemmets, although it looks like Wiggles is looking pretty racy at this point in the race. Is that Block? It is Block. Unfortunately, not Ken Block, the drift racer. Although that would be something if Ken Block was racing here. But it's SLR Block. On his IIRL debut. Under pressure now from Kemmets and Wiggles. Kemmets moves to the inside, Block using his ERS well. And looks like Ryan has lost a bit of ground now on AMS Fairley. And Block is closing up to his teammate, so I wonder if Ryan has some damage. And also AMS Fairley seems to have lost a little bit of ground on Ryan. Is now on the back of these three, making it a four-way fight for fourth. Pete is in 8th place, 3 seconds away from this group, and he's under pressure from Flew, Cool Assassin, and that guy. And a bit wide goes Mr. Wiggles. Unforced error from the Haas. No, from Kemmets, sorry, from the Williams, and Mr. Wiggles has passed into 5th place. And not too far behind the McLaren. Oh, I get you now, Dayman. If only I knew. If only I was smart enough. And yes, I would have done it, and then it would have been hilarious. But unfortunately, we weren't quite on the same wavelength there. I've let you down, Dayman. I've let you down. Lap 22 of 29, Ross has a 4-second lead on Fairley. He has a 5-second time penalty. We may see Fairley try and get that removed. I don't know what it was for. If it was speeding in the pit lane, you can't get that removed, but if it was a collision under safety car that wasn't your fault and you got a 5-second time penalty, then you can ask the stewards to remove it. As down the inside goes Mr. Wiggles, SLR Block just missing his turn in into turn 4, and Mr. Wiggles is now up into 4th place. Block really struggling now. 15 lap old medium tyres. They won't be in great condition for the last portion of this race, but a couple of mistakes have have cost him 2 places on lap 22. Thank you for the follow, Risen Fall or Risen Fall, depending on how you want that pronounced. Appreciate the follow. I think we've just gone over 200 followers now, so thank you so much to everyone who has supported this channel. I hope you really enjoy the streams, and don't be afraid to say hello. We don't bite. Don't worry, Dayman. Here comes Prev now. He's past Block, and he's now on the back of Kemmons for 5th. Mr. Wiggles with another time penalty added to his collection. Brings him up to 12 seconds now. And that's going to cost him places to Kemmons, Prev, Block, Flew, and probably not called Assassin or that guy. So Wiggles may drop here to 8th place if he can't stop acquiring more time penalties. Ross leads AMS Fairley by 3.4 seconds, and that gap is starting to come down. So AMS Fairley, with the hard tyres on, more durable as we know in the race. Those hard tyres could be coming back into play in terms of durability. However, Speak and the Devil Wheel rewards AMS Fairley 3-second time penalty now. That is going to put him under threat from Ryan if that 5-second time penalty can be removed from Fairley. Have to wait and see. But Ryan is within 3 seconds of Fairley anyways. So Ryan is on for a 2nd place here, and Mr. Wiggles has made a couple of mistakes through 14 and 15. He's lost track position to Kemmons, and now Prev and Block look pretty racy behind. This 4-way fight has been happening for the best part of 10 laps now since the safety car restart. And I tell you what, it's been a real joy to watch this as Prev goes down the inside of Wiggles. Bit of a squeeze. Wiggles and Block now going side by side. Wiggles staying ahead of the McLaren. This is allowing Ryan to stay ahead of Kemmons by a nice healthy margin, and that gap between Ross and Fairley is shrinking ever so slightly. But it looks like Ross is going to take the win. Has a nice healthy gap, and Fairley has time penalties. Ross just needs to make sure that he doesn't get any, and the race should be his. Block and Wiggles. Oh, and what's happened between them two? Block has dropped back by a few seconds, and Mr. Wiggles is recovering from the barriers. So probably side-by-side racing went perhaps just a little bit too far there for them two on that occasion, but Wiggles has lost out the most on this specific occasion. And I did say earlier in the race that Prev is one to look out for. He's got better tyre condition at this point than Kemmons. Wiggles comes into the pits and retires. That guy in Flew, teammates at Aston Martin's, going side by side there into the first corner. That guy overtaking his teammate up into 8th place. Good points here for Aston Martin. Prev is going to get past Kemmons on time penalties, but remains to be seen whether Prev wants that 4th place on track before the end of the race. Pete is on new soft tyres, which means he has the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 24.1. Apparently no one else is in the 1 minute 24s due to the one stop that everyone is on. So Pete should have no worries about his fastest lap, but Prev wide at turn 15. It's going to cost him a load of ground to Kemmons. shouldn't cost him the place though. Kemmets has a 3-second time penalty. And Prev is still within a couple of seconds. And what's happened back there? We've got Flew spinning at the final corner. And we've also got that guy going backwards. So we mentioned the Aston Martins were having a nice little fight. Well, that fighting has got a bit sour. And both of them now losing places. And due to that, they're all very spread out now. No one is in DRS range of anyone. Lap 26 of 29 in a race that we've seen Tidiest Bear, Dayman, Connor, Appy and Mr. Wiggles retire from the race. A couple of safety cars which bunched the field up in the first 50% of this race. Chives is a lap down and has orange floor damage, but is fighting valiantly to the end. Cool Assassin has closed up on SLR block very quickly this lap. Maybe McLaren with a bit of a dodgy corner somewhere. But now Cool Assassin is in striking distance with DRS. You can finally have a fight to cover. Race gone tits up, underbody damage and used mediums RIP and the 12-second time penalty for Wiggles. That's why he has retired early. Fairly, quite uncharacteristically, with a second time penalty. Now that may put him under fire from Prev in 5th place. Prev could be on for a podium now that Fairley has that time penalty. Kemmets trying to close that gap to Ryan. Down to 1.2 seconds now. Kemmets is on the move. And in the final couple of laps, AMS Fairley is now also pushing really hard to try and close the gap on our leader Ross. And a yellow flag, and Kemmets is off. He's off, and his front wing has joined him. Kemmets looking good in 4th, but a mistake on the last couple of laps. That Williams no longer a front wing, and Kemmets, after a good strong race, one mistake at the final hurdle may cost him some points here this evening. That now puts Prev in 4th place, and he's only 7 or so seconds behind Fairley. Fairley has 11 seconds of time penalties as SLR block goes a little bit too deep there into turn 9. Fairley is now closing the gap between Ross. It's now 1.8 seconds. But next time around, it will be the final lap of the race. It's been quite a quiet race from Ross's perspective, but I'm sure he won't complain too much. He's been out in the front of the pack for what seems like forever, after overtaking for the lead of the race early on. He hasn't got any time penalties. His pace has been good. Seems like he's chosen a good set of tyres when he did come in for a stop under safety car. Here comes Cool Assassin. Can't get the move done into turn 1. But still an opportunity now. Down to turn 3. Taking the outside route past Block, who has had an impressive debut, you'd have to say. And Cool Assassin, after starting 15th or 16th on the grid, is up into the top 5. and remains to be seen if he will keep that top 5 based on his time penalty. Clements into the pits where he retires. Unfortunate for him, had such a strong showing all race. James White, meanwhile, he's in 7th and having a good race from his perspective. He started in P15, so good race from James. Dr. Edward in the points, as is Flew and Pete. But Ross and Fairley going down to the wire on the last lap, but Ross crosses the line. Fairley with a time penalty will drop in behind Ryan. Ryan takes 2nd place away, and Prev does jump ahead of AMS Fairley on the line. Prev gaining an unlikely podium based on where he was in the middle portion of this race. That guy is retired in 11th. He won't score any points. James White jumps ahead of Cool Assassin up into 6th, who Cool Assassin does stay ahead of his teammate Dr. Edward in 8th. Flew is in 9th after what looked like a little bit of a kerfuffle with his teammate earlier in the race. Pete finishes in 10th and takes home a point. And poor old Chives, do feel for him with that orange floor body. He didn't give up, finished the race. And we'll finish in 11th. They have it. Ross led from the front. He chose the right tyres, and his pace was good enough to win. That wheel is going mental on that car. Ross wins the race, out from the front. Very strong performance. MS Fairley had the pace, but the time penalties just let him down at the end, and that does drop him off the podium. Ryan with a good strong showing in McLaren from 7th on the grid, and Prev, who we did say to look out for, could be a dark horse, indeed proves me right, and I feel like a great commentator for it. He's in 3rd place. AMS Fairley in 4th. SLL Block, not a bad debut at all. Great qualifying performance. He finishes in 5th place. Definitely something to look ahead for the rest of the season is SLL Block. James White, again, and Cool Assassin from the back of the field into 5th and 6th. Dr. Edward in 8th, gaining on his quali start, and Flew and Pete also in the top 10 gaining points. Pete with the fastest lap of the race. Chives, orange floor, yellow rear wing, 6 pit stops and 8 spins. What a race. That guy Chives. Clements Wiggles, Appy Connor, Dayman and Tidiest Bear with retirements. But it's time to choose driver of the day. I think Ross is definitely up there with a shout. I think Cool Assassin could be in with a shout, but his time penalties did kind of ruin his ending in the end. James White also with a strong performance, but we are going to give it to Ross. Also special mentions to Ryan and to Prev. Definitely strong performances from them, and well, it could have gone to any one of those drivers, but Ross didn't put a foot wrong. And at the end of the day, driver of the day is the person who makes the least mistakes, and I believe Ross was that driver this evening. But congratulations also to Ryan and Prev, who joined Ross on the podium. As for the drivers' standings, it actually means quite a lot. The gap was 87 points between Fairley and Ross. It's now shrunk by another 13 points. So the gap is now 74 points with 5 races left. Ross is still in with a shot at this Drivers' Championship, but he's going to have a lot more races like the one we had this evening. Indeed, well done, top 3. And congratulations to Ross for driver of the day. Keep your eye on the website. Standings will be updated very, very shortly. But why not join us on Tuesday and Thursday night? Assist Tier 1 on Thursday night. On Sunday night we'll have Assist Tier 2. Thank you to all the people who new followed tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat. You've all been fantastic this evening as normal. And we'll see you next time on IIRL.